Welcome to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. This podcast was created for the boomer woman leaving corporate, and now you're looking to reinvent yourself, become an author, an entrepreneur, a podcaster. Well, each episode will leave you with clarity. You will come away with the yes, I can and yes, I will reinvent myself mindset. So come on, let's do this. I'm your host, Margot Levette. This episode is sponsored by WOMEL. More than a leadership magazine, WOMEL is a resource that helps women grow their business, mentoring, attentive support, and services. To learn more about WOMEL services and the magazine, go to their website. Go to WOMELLE.com or give them a call at 702-747-3054. Leadership, influence, build your business, do and have it all with WOMEL. Contact them today. Hi, everybody. Margot Levette back. Another episode, Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Well, you'll remember last week we had the conversation with Barbara Ingrassia about copywriting, and it took up all of the time, such a huge subject, but she came because it's necessary to have that conversation. So we're going to continue on because I have a few more questions for her. And so once again, get your paper, get your pen, and let's protect ourselves and let's protect our content and what we work so hard to put out. And let's not get before a judge because we've infringed upon what somebody else has put out into the world, okay? So welcome back, Barbara. Thank you for joining us for week number 2.
Well, thank you so much, Margot. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I tell you what, just to refresh the memories, or maybe somebody just didn't get to part number 1. Can you tell us the difference between, will you set up what a copyright is and what it protects, please?
Okay, well, so the forms of intellectual property that we most commonly encounter are patents for inventions and innovations. Then for our businesses, for our business names, our taglines, our logos, we're talking about trademark. And for creative works of authorship, books and music and photos and paintings and websites and blogs, we're talking about copyright law protection. And that's the one that most of us encounter on a daily basis. Although certainly if we have a business, we want to know about trademark. And as consumers, we want to know about something about trademark.
Indeed, we do. And as you told us last week, we have to guard our gold mines, and we have to make sure that we don't start grabbing pictures and anything else that we see on the internet because we like it and we think that it's available to us. Will you just kind of tell us again about back in the day, we had to have that C in the circle, and that always let you know, whoa, somebody has a copyright on that. Will you just kind of refresh our memory concerning no C is necessary anymore?
That's right. Since 1989, the United States joined an international treaty that had been around for 100 years, but we had been resisting because we wanted to keep the C in a circle and we wanted to keep registration with the U.S. Copyright Office. But in order to advance international trade and agreements and back and forths, we signed on to something called the Berne Convention. So since that time, no formalities are required. Meaning no requirement to have a C in a circle with the year and the copyright holder and typically the all rights reserved. No need to apply to the U.S. Copyright Office to get a copyright. And so that puts us into a little bit of a bind with newer things. If we don't see those, we say, oh, well, must be it's not copyrighted. And it has created a new problem, something called orphan works, works that we can't determine who owns them, and their status, so we can't even ask permission. So that's something that technology has now created so many wonderful opportunities for us, but then there's this little hitch to it as well.
Wow. It seems like that's the reason why people need to consult a person such as yourself. And I'm so into the conversation, I forgot to let people know why it is that you're here today, why you are the expert, because at the end of the day, you come from an academic library background. And Barbara studied the murkiness of copyright law with the Center for Intellectual Property at the University of Maryland. So she knows her stuff. She's also been at the Special Library Association, Duke University, and the Berkman Center at Harvard Law School. So when Barbara is giving us this information today, she knows her stuff. And last week she told us that her passion really is teaching the rest of us about copyright, because the laws are always changing. And as you can hear already, the digital age has ushered in this murkiness. And what do you call it, murky?
Yes, a gray murky ooze. Copyright's been around as long as the country, and before there was copyright under English law. And the writers of the Constitution knew it was so important that they even put a section in the Constitution saying that Congress shall make laws to protect creative works, to offer an incentive to creators so that the United States would have its own culture, its own society, so that it gives a limited monopoly for works. Patents last 20 years, typically. Trademarks last forever as long as you're using them, but you have to renew them. And copyright now lasts for the life of the author plus 70 years, which is much longer than the original copyright laws. So it's always a matter of trying to balance the interests of the creator and the good of the public.
Mm. I have a question about, and I hear what you're saying, that copyright lasts the life of the creator and 70 years. So now, I think you told us last week, once something is created, then it's set. Is that the correct term?
Yeah, once it's fixed. Yeah, fixed in a tangible medium, as long as it's original and creative and fixed in a tangible medium.
Okay, so it's fixed. And I decide that I want to cover myself. I don't want anybody to just take this. We work hard to do what we do. So then how do I go about to get my work, my fixed work? How did I go about to get it registered?
Well, at copyright.gov, that's copyright.gov, that's the site for the U.S. Copyright Office. And on there, they give very good instructions about how to fill out the form electronically. Typically, it's pretty straightforward. Now, sometimes it gets a little complicated depending on how many people were involved or if it's a mixed medium audiovisual kind of thing. But it's pretty straightforward. And it's relatively inexpensive for the protection that you're getting. It creates a public record. So one would go to that site also to search to see if something has been registered as copyrighted. But as I said, since that's no longer a requirement, that's not 100% reliable source of knowing whether something's copyrighted or not. But you can go there to check on copyrights. You can go there to register a copyright. Of course, you can find the copyright law there and various developments within the Copyright Office. Wow. So it's an interesting site to go to, when you don't have anything to do on a Friday night.
or wait a minute, go over there so that you can get some protection for yourself. I think
Yes.
and I don't want to belabor this because I do want you to be able to get into a couple other things here. But at the end of the day, do we have to copyright each and everything that we create, or can we bundle it all together as long as it's from the same person? It's one thought, say one book, and you're just adding to it, or how does that type of thing work?
Well, yes, sometimes you may say, oh, this is so valuable, I know I want it to be copyrighted all on its own, and you go ahead and do that. But other times you might have a collection of articles or a collection of blog posts, a collection of photos that you'd like to protect. But even though it's very reasonably priced, you don't want to go through that activity for each and every one. So
Okay.
you can gather them and publish, register them as a group. You give them some sort of title. It might be Margot's Musings for January to June of 2019, something like that, and register it. Now, the thing to be aware of is that you can get only one damage award. So if someone takes pieces from many of those things, it still is just one damage award infringement. So that's something to consider, but we're hoping that we never have to go to those lengths anyway, and that we're guarding our gold mine. You know, we're paying for a sense of a peace of mind and a little insurance like we do on our cars and our houses. We hope we never have to use them, but
Gotcha.
but we do it for peace of mind.
Makes a lot of sense. It really, really does. Well, I want to move into this thing of intellectual property, and you hear a lot about it. What exactly is intellectual property? How should we handle it?
Well, intellectual property is works of the mind. So we're used to physical property, you know, the car, the table, the chair, the computer, but things of intellectual property coming from the mind seem more intangible. Certainly, they often end up being something tangible. They end up being a physical book or a physical car or whatever, but they're creations from the mind. And sometimes people don't have as much respect for those being work, you know, that you put work into that, and that it deserves to be protected, and you deserve to be rewarded for your work. And so copyright is an example of that. Trademark, where we're protecting our business brand, and inventions, patents for inventions and innovations are all examples of intellectual property. And if I can give a quick example, if you look at a glass Coca-Cola bottle, which you might have to look around a little to find, but and the plastic ones are similar too, but the design of that bottle with that little bulge in the middle was quite a change. And it got a design patent in, I think it was 1915. So that design was patented and protected by Coca-Cola.
Oh, wow.
Then, you know, you see the flowery script that says Coca-Cola on the bottle. So that's the trademark. And you'll often see, if you look closely, you'll see a little R in a circle there. The advertising that they do on TV, online, in magazines, whatever, those are copyrighted materials or creative materials in that way. And then finally, the one more area is called trade secret. And like anything with a secret, you don't tell anybody. Well, with Coca-Cola, no one person knows how to make Coca-Cola.
Oh,
Scientists have analyzed it, and so they know what's in it, but there's just something that makes that special, that makes that Coca-Cola. And so no one person knows the entire recipe. So that's a trade secret.
Oh, my. That is, never thought about it. Wow.
So you look at a Coca-Cola bottle, you can see the whole intellectual property uh, family right there.
Wow. That's something I just never even thought about it. So we're probably looking at intellectual property all around us, especially with the big box stores and the big boys.
Oh, sure. Yep. Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Um, an interesting thing about trademark is that its intent is to identify a business or a product from others
Mm-hmm.
and avoid confusing the public. So its intent is that your trademark is going to be used in business.
Mm-hmm.
You can't trademark a phrase just because you like it and you don't want somebody else to use it. It needs to be for use in business. And you register to a particular class or category. So you might register something as a product, as a physical goods and products, or register it as a service.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you don't have to register a trademark. You can have common law trademark, which if it was a product, a physical product, you'd put a little TM next to it for trademark. If it's a service, you would put a little SM for service mark. That's probably going to protect you maybe in your locale, maybe San Diego, but not in Sacramento kind of thing. You can get state registration, which would protect you in your state. And that's generally faster, less expensive. I was looking at California earlier today, and that's typically $70 per class.
Wow.
Or category, and you typically would register in more than one. But that's pretty reasonable through the Secretary of State's office, and it's usually the Secretary of State's office in any state. For federal registration, you need to be using it in interstate commerce in more than one state. With the internet, that's not too difficult to prove. And it's when you get that federal registration that you're protected throughout the country, and you get the little R in the circle. So that's the strongest protection. It's also the one that takes the longest to get and is more expensive than state registration. But you're protecting your brand, your logo, your business. And if someone else comes along and they have a very similar logo or very similar name, that confuses the public. And if the quality of the second one to come along isn't as good as your quality, then that throws you into a public relations kind of situation. So it's to protect your brand, the integrity of your brand, and your uniqueness. That means that the USPTO, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, is going to do a very, 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 very thorough search. And not only are they looking for the identical logo or the identical name, the identical tagline, they're looking for things that are very, very similar. So we think of trademark with the McDonald's golden arches or the Nike swish, and the just do it. Those aren't long enough, or just do it taglines, titles aren't long enough to be copyrighted, but they can definitely be a trademark because they are so identified with a particular brand. The bullet hole design of Target, the Michelin tire guy, all of those things mean something to us. They take on a meaning and serve an identification process. People run around with various logos on their clothes, and so that's really a form of free advertising for the company. But all of that, you say, oh, okay, I know that brand. I know it's a good brand. kind of
Yes.
thing. And so that's what we want to protect for ourselves.
Well, Barbara, I'm thinking now about this, our logos, our brands. When we go into business and we are serious about what we're doing, or we're enjoying some longevity. Do you, well, I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. Instead of getting that trademark, a person should just really go ahead, bite the bullet, and get that federal registration. If you're really going to be in business, and this is what you're going to do, and it's valuable to you, that's the best route to take, correct?
Well, yes, and you really want to do that even when you're thinking about what you'll call your business,
Mm.
so that you aren't bumping into somebody else as well, but also so that the trademark process can be smooth. So it can be your company name, it can be your logo, which could be a drawing, or it could be words, strictly words, your tagline, any of those things, phrases, you can consider those for trademark. But it is a very careful process, and frequently you want to be working with a trademark attorney.
Okay. Somebody who knows what's going on, because it sounds like, I mean, if you don't fill out the paperwork correctly, or you overlook something, then the whole thing could be thrown out, and it didn't have
Yes,
to be that way.
right. And so because not every trademark is registered, maybe something's registered at a state level. So you sort of have to do this whole search, not only through the USPTO database, but then through every state, or doing an very thorough internet search. And so sometimes it's just worth it to go ahead and invest with a trademark attorney.
Mm-hmm. Get that way they can do the heavy lifting, because that's some heavy lifting, it sounds
Yes.
like.
Yes.
Time consuming. So, and that takes me down to the next question that I was going to ask you. You know, there's so many resources online that state that they will show you how to do your copyright and that type of thing. What are the pitfalls? I think we pretty much touched on them, but are there any other pitfalls that come with not getting with someone such as yourself, or a trademark patent attorney? The things,
Well,
the unspoken truths.
sometimes as in anything, if the deal looks too good to be true, then, maybe that's a red flag. Certainly you can find reputable sources online, and reputable referrals and whatnot. But oftentimes when you type something in, the first thing you get is a bunch of ads.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just important to do your due diligence as well.
Gotcha. If it's too good to be true, ladies and gentlemen, as it is with everything in this life,
Right.
then you really should question it. This time we're spending this week, and we're in week number 2 with Barb, who is telling us about copyrights and trademarks and intellectual property and patents and that type of thing. She's taken us down the historical road and enlightened us. So I want to thank you for that, Barbara. I don't know about, is there anything else that you want any more information you want to give us? Because, wait a minute, I feel as though I've been taking notes, and this is like I have a fire hose in my face, but
Yes.
There's a lot of information. And if we don't have the passion for it, like Barbara, it's almost like you're sitting here with the deer in the headlights and just say, well, all I know is that I need to go ahead and get a federal registration at the end of the day. That's all that I know for certain. But you have broken up the different, what is the difference between a trademark, a patent, copyright, intellectual property? At least we are aware of the terms. Is there anything else that we need to walk away from this conversation with?
Well, we have, as you say, we've skimmed the surface. And I think probably just always reading carefully something that is more contract law than copyright or trademark or patent is looking at the bottom of the screen on a website. Mm-hmm. And looking at those terms and conditions, that thing that they say, I've read and I agree, check mark. And so we just go ahead because we're in a hurry. Mm-hmm. But taking a look at those and seeing what it is we're permitted to do and what we're not permitted to do, and what we're agreeing to is important to, at least begin to take a look at some of those, because you are making a contractual agreement. And oftentimes you can find what you need to know in terms of what's allowed and what's not allowed there in the terms and conditions, or the privacy statement, or the disclaimer, those things that are typically at the bottom of a website screen.
Wow. And even if you're coming onto a podcast such as this, there's always something at the bottom. So because people, I understand what you're saying. You have to take time to read these things. And I myself, I don't have it in small, itty bitty, where you got to get out a magnifying glass to read it, because I think that's an integrity problem. I've seen people do that, and that's not right. But Barbara's right, because we really we get in a hurry, we click, we agree, and when at the end of the day, we need to know what we're signing. That's we need to know, because something could come back next week, maybe 5 years from now. You just can never tell. We're always hearing about class action suits and that type of thing. I get stuff in the mail, and sometimes you say, well, when did I buy this computer?
Right.
What? That computer doesn't even work anymore.
Right.
So,
yeah.
You said that a trademark can last for 70 years? Or
well, that's copyright.
Copyright
70 years plus a life of the author. A trademark is typically 10 years, but you do need to show proof and continue to file paperwork to show that you're still using it. And so trademark is really based on use. Okay. So even before you go through a trademark process, you may be able to show that you've been using that since 1950 or whatever. So there's longevity there.
So at the end of the day, the bottom line is that trademarks, patents, copyrights, intellectual property, get with an expert when it comes to, questioning what you can use, what you can't use, because the laws that are guarding these gold mines, as Barbara says, you're not going to outlive them. They're going to outlive you.
Right.
There's no use in guessing and hoping you can use something. Find out,
It's because of this explosion of the digital age and the technology, as I was saying earlier, and I didn't follow through on. These laws have existed, but they were a little bit dormant. They were there, but the internet allows us to do so many things, to put out things, to find things, to grab things, and so it's really come back into a prominence.
Yeah. It's a good thing, because my grandson's on the internet, so people are doing all kinds of things every day, all day. So Barbara, I thank you. Thank you. We're going to have to, I know that we've had 2 weeks back to back, but I know that we've just skimmed the surface. So you're going to have to come back, because these laws are always changing. And you said something last week that stuck with me. You said that Congress has changed a few things and patched some things. But as we look at the big picture of everything, this conversation goes so deep until 2 sessions here on Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation can't begin to cover everything that we need to know. So you're definitely going to have to come back. Do you agree, lady?
I do. And maybe some questions will come along that are general enough that we can try to address. Again, it's information and not legal advice, but I would be happy to. And I do want to let you know how you can follow me.
Yes.
My website is managecopyright.com, MANAGECOPYRIGHT.com. And my tagline is manage copyright, don't let it manage you. So don't be afraid of it, but also don't abuse it. And also guard your gold mine. And when you go to managecopyright.com, you can see my free ebook, The 10 Biggest Copyright Mistakes Anyone Can Make That Could Land You in Court. And certainly I'm happy to talk with anyone to give you an idea of what issues you might be facing. And I'm at barb@managecopyright.com.
Wow. I tell you what, you have given us a lot of information, thank you for the ebook. And I like the way you said anyone. So that includes all of us. We all could end up in court if we're not careful. So get the ebook, consult with Barb. And I like that idea. When you come back, I will have taken some questions from the audience, people that I know, because this is important and this conversation has to keep going because the laws are changing and we forget. We get in the heat of the moment, we see a picture that we want. I think that a lot of us have learned from other people who've been before the courts as far as music. Back in the day, we used to go ahead and get something from YouTube and just have a marathon of music. I mean, I did that myself, playing it for everybody who may have been listening. But now that has really come to a screeching halt. So there's so many things that we used to do and used to think were all right, and they're just not all right now. So even YouTube, they will take you some things down or shut you out if they think copyright infringement is going on. So Barbara is the lady to get in contact with any questions at all so that you can stay healthy, wealthy, and wise. Wait a minute, what is your motto now? Manage copyright. Don't let it manage you.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, wow. Well, it has been a really good 2 weeks with you, Barbara. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, audience, for paying attention because this conversation was brought to you because I just felt as though now is the time. We had a conversation like this last year, but things have changed. Things are always changing. So you went into business, you reinvented yourself, you wrote your book, you are now an author, speaker, podcaster, entrepreneur. Protect yourself and don't get in trouble with others. So on that happy note, I will be back next week. Brand new episode. Her business, her voice, her conversation. Thanks for listening. See you later. Bye-bye. I want to thank you for listening to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Couple of things that I want you to do. Right now, go to my website, pick up a copy of Her Business, Her Voice, Her Reinvention, how I went from game show hopping to international show host, author, and speaker in 1 year. Number 2, please freely listen to each and every episode. Share them out with your family, friends, the men in your lives. And then number 3, get in contact with me, one of the experts that have been on the show, because I want to make sure that you reinvent yourself. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode here on Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation.